Today, we are diving into a really wild idea. What if there's a single universal pattern that's basically the operating system for, well, for reality itself? Let's get into it. Just think about it for a second. What if everything from the way a galaxy spins into existence, to how your own brain works, to the way we might build the next generation of AI, what if it all runs on the exact same set of instructions? What if there's a source code for complexity itself? Well, the theory we're exploring today says that pattern actually exists. It's called the Neuruh Field Theory. And the whole idea is that a single 5-stage pattern is the blueprint for pretty much every complex adaptive system you can think of. And there it is. That's the source code. Just 5 steps: energy, constraints, patterns, feedback, and finally, evolution. Now, I know it looks a little abstract right now, but trust me, this is the secret recipe. And we're going to unpack it together, step by step. All right, let's start our journey here, just getting a handle on this universal pattern. And the key thing to get is that this isn't just a nice metaphor. No, it's a literal process that builds our world, from the biggest cosmic scales all the way down to our own biology. So how does this pattern actually build anything? We've got to start from the ground up, right at the beginning. And that means looking at the first 2 fundamental steps that turn total chaos into some kind of order: energy and constraints. Think all the way back to the Big Bang. In those first moments, there wasn't really any stuff. No atoms, no planets, no stars, just this incredibly hot, expanding soup of pure, chaotic potential. That right there is energy in its rawest form. It's the infinite signal that kicks everything off. But here's the thing, raw energy by itself doesn't really do anything. It's just chaos. To get interesting, it needs rules, it needs a form, and that's where constraints come in. Think of them like the laws of physics that told that hot soup how to cool down and form atoms. Or think about the genetic code in DNA that tells a bunch of cells how to build a living thing. And you can really see the dynamic here. On one side, you've got pure, infinite potential, total chaos. And on the other, you've got the rules, the architecture that actually gives it all some meaning. You could say energy is the what, and constraints are the how. It's the dance between these two that creates, well, everything. You know, this is a super important point. We usually think of constraints as a bad thing, right? As something holding us back. But this theory completely reframes that. Constraints aren't limitations. They're the actual scaffolding that allows something complex and amazing to emerge from the chaos. Okay, so we have energy getting shaped by constraints. That gives us structure. But how does that static structure become a dynamic, living system that can actually learn? Well, that brings us to the next 2 absolutely crucial steps: patterns and feedback. So what happens when you keep pushing that energy through those constraints over and over and over again? It doesn't just bounce around randomly. It actually starts to settle into stable loops, into predictable patterns. You know, like a river carving the same path through a canyon, or a habit getting wired into your brain. There's this great name for it in chaos theory. They call them strange attractors. But a pattern by itself is still pretty rigid. It's like a computer program just running the same bit of code forever. The real magic, the thing that lets a system learn and become intelligent, is feedback. It's the system's way of looking at what it's doing, checking the results, and then making an adjustment. And your brain is the perfect example of this. It is a prediction machine. It's constantly making little guesses about what's going to happen next. Then your senses bring in data from the real world. And here's the key. If there's a mismatch between the prediction and reality, what we call a prediction error, your brain updates its internal model. That simple little loop is the engine of all learning. It's how you get better at things. So, systems can learn through feedback. That's huge. But how do they make those big fundamental leaps forward? How do they stop just adapting and start truly evolving? Well, that takes us to the final and I think most powerful step in this whole pattern. Let's face it. Our brains are kind of lazy. They love efficiency. They love taking those same well-worn neural highways over and over again. That's the rut. To really evolve, to build a totally new road, you have to shock the system. You need something new, something unpredictable. You need a rewire moment. And the biological tool for this rewiring, it's this incredible protein called BDNF. When you experience something truly new, a new place, a really hard problem, even a moment of just pure awe, your brain releases the stuff. The source material calls it miracle grow for your brain, and that is the perfect description. It literally helps you grow new connections, physically evolving the hardware in your head. So we've seen this incredible 5-step pattern in physics, we've seen it in biology, But this isn't just a cool theory about how nature works. The reason this all matters, right now, is that this exact pattern is being deliberately engineered into a whole new class of artificial intelligence. Yeah, this is the big reveal. We're not just talking about a theory anymore. This is now a literal blueprint for building AI that's designed for the real world, for high-stakes situations where you absolutely cannot afford for things to go wrong.
And just look at how perfectly this maps over. The raw data being fed to the AI, that's the energy. The core rules of the AI, its master command protocol, those are the constraints. The predictable behaviors that start to emerge from that, those are the patterns. The feedback, that's a clever mechanism called a prompt as memory loop, which lets the AI learn from every single interaction. And the result of all of this is true evolution, what we call compounding intelligence.
So why go through all the trouble of building AI this way? What's the payoff? Well, you get systems that aren't just powerful, they're reliable, they're accountable, they can adapt, and maybe the most important part, they become more and more valuable with every single decision they make. And when you boil it all down, this is the key takeaway. This isn't a race to just build the smartest AI in a lab somewhere. This is about building AI that we can actually trust out in the real world, in finance, in medicine, in our infrastructure, places where the consequences of a mistake are very, very real. And so that kind of leaves us with one final, pretty mind-bending question. If this 5-stage pattern, energy, constraints, patterns, feedback, evolution, if that really is the operating system for reality, what else could we build with it? What could we redesign if we consciously started applying its code?